Welcome to this course on Dutch culture and studying in the Netherlands. In this course we'll look at what culture is, which dimensions culture has, we'll analyze culture by using a scientific model, and we'll look at national cultures. Then afterwards we'll compare three cultures, the cultures of Bulgaria, Vietnam and the Netherlands. And in the last lessons I'll give you some practical examples of Dutch classroom settings and how to study in the Netherlands. Culture can be defined in many ways, but one of the most important researchers on culture is Geert Hofstede, and he defines it as follows: the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from others. What's important to know is that he mentions groups and not countries. So a group can be metal fans or Buddhists or Western Europe or anime lovers or maybe employees of Starbucks. So these can be various subcultures. He also mentions programming of the mind. So how does this programming take place? This happens through stories with a moral. An example of this is Robin Hood. Robin Hood shows you that you can steal from the rich and give to the poor. So it has some underlying values, for instance, about equality, that there shouldn't be too much difference between rich people and poor people. But it also shows that you should not listen to authorities if you fight for the right cause. He steals from the rich, which is not allowed. Stories are told in families, churches, mosques and other religious temples, but also in media. And stories have strong influences on culture, but also on the people living in that culture. To give you an example of the power of stories, in some countries girls are not allowed to go to school. The people in power believe that girls are being influenced and that they learn values that they don't think are appropriate for girls, so they ban girls going to school. Another example is England in the late medieval times. The Bible was being translated into normal English before it was only available in Latin. And the people in power, they banned the Bible in normal English because they thought these stories might influence other people. And here you see that culture is learned, it's not inherited. You see human nature, culture and personality. Human nature is inherited and universal. For instance, every human needs to eat. Every human is getting hungry if they don't eat. But in culture, it defines what you will eat. For instance, in Western Europe, people use butter more, and in Southern Europe, people use olive oil more. Of course, there's also personal preference. Someone from Southern Europe can maybe not like olive oil and uses butter, but in general, people in Southern Europe use olive oil more, and that's the culture of Southern Europe. And culture manifests itself in several ways. There are several layers in this model, which are symbols, heroes, rituals, and values. It is shaped as an onion. It means that the outer layers are the most superficial, and the inner layers, which is values, are the deepest manifestations of culture. The outer layer is about the symbols. Symbols are cultural artifacts, for instance, flags, architecture, hairstyle, or clothing. These can change quickly, and they can also be copied. For instance, people all over the world start dressing in the same way. They buy clothing at the same kind of stores. If you go to Japan, or to America, or to the Netherlands, you can see the same kind of clothing. So culture can be copied as well. Then, a level deeper, you can see heroes. These can be fictive persons, but also scientists or photo models or media persons. And these are role models. They represent the values and the beliefs of that culture. An example is Winston Churchill. He is seen as a role model and someone who represents the British values and beliefs of that culture. He was patriotic and he fought for what he stood for, which are important values of the British culture. One level deeper, we'll look at rituals and traditions. How do you greet a person? How do people eat? How do they get married? And how do you practice religion? For instance, in Germany, they shake hands a lot, and they give a firm hand. In Malaysia, they touch fingers and then they point it to their heart, which is a different way of greeting. Rituals, they change slowly. They don't change as fast as the symbols, for instance. The inner layer are the underlying values of a culture. They influence all the other layers, and they are harder to recognize without a deeper analysis and thorough understanding of the other layers. For example, we can look at Dutch meetings. Many people who come to the Netherlands, they think that Dutch people organize a lot of meetings and that these meetings take a long time. They don't understand the underlying values of why they take such a long time and why they have so many meetings. The underlying value is that the Dutch appreciate equality. They don't appreciate a strong hierarchy. So they give everyone the chance to share their opinion. No matter what their rank is or what their position is in the company. For an outsider, you might think that the Dutch managers are weak, that the boss is weak and that they show poor leadership even by listening to everyone and not taking a decision. Another example is looking into someone's eye. Children are often taught that they should look into someone's eye in the Western world. But in Arabic cultures, you often see that it's rude to look an elderly person in the eye, especially when they're being corrected. So a Western person correcting an Arabic person, it might think that the child is being rude by looking away, but the child is just trying to be respectful. So these are all anecdotal examples, and there are more scientific ways of analyzing cultures, and that's what we will do in the next lesson.